Today, I'm going to show you how to build your own trailer car at home in 10 steps, 10 easy steps. Step 1, obviously, find a parts car. When looking for a parts car, there's a few things that you're looking for. One is it can have front end damage, obviously because we're cutting it in half. 2 is you don't even need a title, you don't need tags, you don't have to worry about all that bureaucracy shit. Just find a cheap car that matches either paint or whatever you want to look for. Find something cheap that you can bring home and you don't mind destroying it. The most important thing when looking for a parts car is the rear end, making sure that it's in pretty decent shape. You have your axles, you have your diffs, you have pretty much everything in there. The front end, you can have no engine, you can have a shell. As long as you have rear suspension and rear drivetrain, you should be good. I'm going to show you a step 2 right over there. This was an SC400 that we got for $400. The front end obviously was crashed and not in great shape, and it didn't have title or tag since 2015. As you can see, the rear end's not in great shape, but it was still cheap enough to where we can make a trailer out of it and be pretty happy with that. Step 2 depends a little bit on how you did in step 1. Depending on if you have an engine or even a front end on the car you purchased, you're gonna have to strip pretty much everything out of it. So that includes taking radiator out, engine out, wiring out, pretty much everything, bare metal, like you were about to paint the engine bay. Step 2 also consists of gutting your interior, or at least the front half of your interior. Removing interior is not fun, but you can make it fun by lighting it on fire or putting a bomb inside and just blowing the engine. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna wanna take the doors off, the dashboard out, the seats, the carpet, the headliner, everything on the roof. If you have a sunroof, you're gonna want to take the sunroof out, and pretty much everything beyond the point that you're gonna cut. Once everything's stripped, you're gonna need one of these, a Sawzall. Preferably a metal blade. This is a wood blade, but you can get the long metal blades. This is your best friend when making a trailer car. Once you have a plan of where you're gonna cut your trailer, for the coupes, I do right below the door. For his sedan, we had the back doors, so we did a little bit further this way. You're just going to take this blade and cut all the way around. Trans tunnel, frame rails, and then roof. Also remember that when you remove your engine and cut it in half, the rear end is going to weigh a lot less. And you want to try to cut where the rear end is 50-50 balanced on the wheels, so it leans forward, it leans back pretty easily. Make sure you got a big pack of metal blades because you're definitely going to go through a couple. So on the coupe, you can see we cut right at the rear doors. You don't have a lot of trans tunnel left, but on the sedan, you have a little bit more room left and you have working doors. So you can choose where you'd like to make your trailer. The bigger you make it, the more space you have for parts and wheels and stuff. Step 3 consists of coming up with a game plan and deciding on how you're going to want to connect your trailer. There are a few different ways, and I'll go through them right now. One way you can do it, which is the first way that I did it with a BMW trailer, is you can use a pre-existing, like, smaller utility trailer and just cut that A-frame off and fit it to your car. It's not the easiest way, but definitely one of the simplest way. And if you already have a utility trailer lying around, you can just take that hitch off of it and connect them two up. I'll put clips in of my old BMW. I used a little motorcycle trailer, and I just cut the whole base off and just put the A-frame onto the half car. So we tried experimenting with a couple other ways, and this is the second way you could do it. One is grab a big piece of DOM steel, long piece, and bend it in a tube bender. So this whole pole right here is one big tube, and that pull strength is very hard, very strong. So this is a good option if you have a tube bender and you have the welding knowledge to do so. Other options consist of just cutting tubes. It could be DOM round tube or it could be square tube, and just kind of putting a bar in the middle and connecting the tubes to the bar in the middle and all the plates. I've even seen them where it's just one bar in the middle and it goes straight to your car, and then they have connecting rods in the middle. I like having more bars, more attachments, and a longer A-frame just because it's easier to back up, it's easier to turn with it, but there's gives and takes for all of the ways you can do it. Step 4 is actually putting that plan into action. So one thing you're going to want to think about is, where are my structural parts on the trailer car? You have typically a frame rail running through your body here. You have some smaller frame rails over here. that go halfway through the car, and you have your trans turret. Everything else is really thin body metal, and I do not suggest welding to it. If you look at this one over here, this is body metal versus the frame rail in there. I had accidentally attached a plate to the body metal and just blew holes through it. It's not even well attached. So I went back and I put plates on the frame rail inside here. So make sure you find the thick points and you get good plates on those for your attachment of those tubes. Once you have all your connection points figured out, another very important thing is to level the flatness of your hitch with the body lines of the car. Because if you didn't do that, the hitch would be sitting either down low or up too high. So it's important to take the car off of jacks, see where it's going to sit, and line your tubes up with the level of the car. As well as making sure that your hitch is center of the car, trying to get it as close to the middle of the trans turret as you can. You're going to want to weld all your bars on, and you're going to want to make sure that it's all level. Once you have that, I suggest putting another bar and another plate in places that you think are weak spots. Trust me, these cars and these trailers have a lot of load. Even though they're lighter than a normal car, the trailers are still pulling air, bouncing up and down, and doing all sorts of weird things. So the more supports, the better. This middle support is up over here and a little lower here. So when it goes up and down, it's putting tension on this bar. That's a good support to have. It worked so well on that car that we did it to this car too, to stop some of the wobbling up and down. See, we mounted it to the trans tunnel, and then you just mounted it over here with a solid bracket. Materials that might be included depend on what route you want to go, but something I suggest is 1/4-inch steel plates, DOM 1.75 tubing. You could do square tubing, but I suggest the round tubing. And then just as many little corner pieces as you can, get long strips of steel plate, and all sorts of little metal pieces will come in handy. You have your frame in place, everything looks level, and it's supported well enough. You're also going to need some trailer accessories, either from Harbor Freight, Tractor Supply Co. You can get some things online, but I suggest just going to Harbor Freight. You can get pretty much everything you need there. You're going to need some sort of jacking system and a wheel if you want to be able to move the trailer around while it's not connected. I highly suggest getting one of these. 2, you're going to need your receiver hitch. They sell this at Harbor Freight for about 30 bucks. I modified mine a little bit to have more welds on the side, but on that one, we left it fully intact and we put the bars on the inside. You're gonna need chains. They also sell a chain kit at Harbor Freight for like 12 bucks. You're gonna need a wiring kit. This is probably 16 bucks. You can get both sides, side for this car and the side for the trailer. For step 6, we're gonna go into the back of the trailer. And as you can see, step 6 is a little bit messy. You're gonna take those trailer lights you got at Harbor Freight and you're gonna wire them into the car lights in the back of the trailer. As you can see, blinker, running lights, ground, brake, and other blinker. Typically, trailer lights, the blinkers and the brakes are the same light bulb. So when you put on your blinker, the red light blinks. When you put on your brakes, it goes on. But for cars, you typically have, I said typically way too many fucking times. For cars, you have a separate blinker bulb and a brake bulb. So that means you're probably going to have to add another wire if you want your brakes to be separate than your blinkers. I took a long red wire from the same trailer kit that I wasn't using, and I just ran it all the way to the brakes, ran it to these brakes, and I just hooked it up to a little connector. Also going to have to wire those lights on the other side into the car that you're towing with. If the car that you are towing with doesn't have a hitch or isn't made for towing, you're gonna have to do a little bit of splicing. Come in here and I'll show you. So these are my tail lights. I've got the brake, runners, ground, and the blinkers hooked up on both sides, and it runs straight to that cable in the bottom. Also, if your car isn't built for towing and you're adding a trailer to it, you're gonna have to put a hitch receiver on the car you're going to be towing with. So I'll come down here and I'll show you. This hitch receiver you can also get at Harbor Freight. It's very typical. It bolts onto the bottom of your car and it sits a little low so your car can't be slammed. But I'll show you the other one on that car too. This is another style of receiver that has long way bolts instead of goes back. Either one works. We like to reinforce ours anyways. So as long as you have something that takes a ball hitch, it should work. Once you have that receiver mounted to the bottom of your car, you're probably going to want to reinforce it. This trunk metal is very, very weak, and you add pressure on the other side of it and it'll move up and down, it'll pull out, and you don't want that. So what we did here, we mounted a bar to the 2 frame rails, 1, 2, welded a bar here, 2 plates, and then those bolt directly into the hitch we added. So your hitch can do this. Moves the whole damn car. All right, we're getting to the final steps of just buttoning up the trailer system. One includes, as you can see, this is wide open. Going down the freeway, this acts as a big drag parachute. Wow, air scoop, just air goes right in here, it sways, it slows you down, it puts wear on your trans, your engine. You don't want it to just be open. It might even blow your rear window out. So something you can do is add a panel to the front. This is off of an old barn door. You can see we have them right there. It was just a leftover piece we had sitting on the lawn, and I cut it up to the shape and I bolted it on a hinge up here, and I put 1 bolt here. If you take that bolt off, it swings up. You can access in there pretty easily. The last one I did actually just like clipped up here, and it could fold down really easily. It was just a metal gate with some big mats on top. You can do it however you want, as long as you're stopping most of that air from just being scooped into the trailer, it'll work pretty good. Another thing you're gonna wanna do is when you cut this apart and you take the engine out and it's just a half car, it's gonna sit about 7 inches higher than it normally does. I'll show you some clips of how it would sit. So you can either do that first, or I like to do it last because you still need to get it level on the body lines, but the wheels are gonna sit really high. On this trailer, I have coilovers in the rear, so I can adjust how low it sits. And these are maxed out to the low. It's just because there's not enough weight on the car to actually push it down to the ground. On this car, we just cut the springs because really you don't have a lot of weight. It's not even that bumpy, and you're not gonna feel it in the car you're driving. So you just have to plan for, if you're putting stuff in the trailer, make sure you cut a little bit above where you want it to sit, because it's gonna be dumped if you cut the springs. I'm looking at you, Sam.
Yeah, I kind of dumped that.
Yikes. Once you're done with all of that, the last step is basically just getting it legal. You're gonna need a few things, including documents of the items you purchased for the car or for the trailer, including the hitch receiver, the wheels, the lights. If you put new wheels on it, you're probably gonna need receipts for that. They don't really check, but if you have receipts for everything you paid for and you already paid sales tax, then you don't have to pay sales tax again through the DMV. Also, you're gonna need to write down how much you bought this chassis for. You're gonna need a few DMV documents as well. A Reg 343 is the statement of construction. Basically, you're just listing the parts you put into it, you're listing the prices, you're putting where you got the chassis from. It's usually for like kit trailers where you buy the trailer online or from some company and they give you the documents that you need. But for something like this, you have to say you constructed it on your own, you used all your own parts and all your own materials. So that's very important to fill out. The next one is a Reg 5036. That's basically just an application for registration and title. For trailers, you don't really need a title, but I like to have it just because these are odd things to see going down the highway. And if a cop pulls you over, you kind of want to be on the better side of having all your documents ready. So it's not that much more to get a title printed, and you do need registration for it. So you're gonna have to fill one of those out anyways. All right, we're filming a video. Once you have those documents filled out, once you have the receipts of all of the parts you paid for, and get this trailer to the DMV, they're gonna have you do a 124, which is basically just an inspection and a VIN assignment. When I went, he didn't inspect anything. He didn't look at the lights, he didn't look at the trailer. He just came over, wiped it clean, and put a new VIN on, had me fill it out, and that was it. It was pretty easy, it took like 15 minutes. One thing you're gonna need to say is, I'm here to register a home-built utility trailer. If you say coach trailer or boat trailer or custom trailer, they don't really know what you're talking about. Say home-built utility trailer. And if they ask, it's under 1,000 pounds. Because above 1,000 pounds, you're gonna have to add trailer brakes and they have a longer inspection period for it. It's just a bunch of business that you don't need to get to. And these probably weigh like 600-700 pounds, not much. After that VIN assignment, you go back in the DMV, you hand them all your paperwork and that 124 that you just did. And for me, it was about $60. That was including the title, the permanent plates for 5 years, and they sent me out the door. Really easy. I drove this trailer around with the original vehicle plate on it for a couple of days. On July 4th, I got pulled over and cited for not having registration for my vehicle. Even though it's not a vehicle, I was still rocking the plates and the bad registration, which I wouldn't recommend. I would just take your plates off so the cops can't really look up that registration. After you get it registered, obviously you're going to want to put that plate back on as a trailer plate. After everything is legal, after you just spent few days cutting cars in half and welding steel plates onto them, last step is just to enjoy. Go to a drift event, pack in a barbecue, put some spares in the back of the trailer. You've got spare parts, all sorts of good things. Just go out and have fun. Some people were also asking, why even do this? For one, it's cool. It looks awesome. It's pretty sick. It's a good way to use your parts car if it's just sitting in the junkyard outside your house, you know. Secondly, I like driving my cars to drift events. Yeah, you can tow your car, but it's not that cool. You're kind of relying on having a tow vehicle and all this stuff. You kind of unload it, load it back up. It sucks. If you drive there and you break it, you have a trailer with all your spare parts from the parts car that you used to build the trailer. You have spare axles, you have a spare diff, you have wheels in the front. You can bring all your control arms, a radiator, an engine if you want, you can put it in the front. The cons though, if you blow a diff or you blow an axle and you don't have any spares, you're gonna have to take apart your trailer. So it's better than your car being stranded at the drift event, but you're probably gonna have to come back and fix your trailer, get it working again, put a diff back in it, put an axle back in it to get it back home. But you know, trade-offs. Thanks for tuning in. I'd love to see the trailers you guys come up with. I want to do it for a 240, I want to do it for a Miata, 350. So whatever you guys come up with, send them our way, and good luck.